Chapter 21. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sorry to disturb you all. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Jiang Lan continued to walk in the fog. He felt that the people in front of him were too slow. This was wasting his time. If someone returned to the protective circle at this time and he wasn't inside, it would be hard to explain. Give him a hand. Jiang Lan muttered to himself. Then, he flicked his finger. Boom! A huge blow occurred next to that person. Thereafter, a huge pit appeared beside him. The man, who had initially thought it was safe, was instantly stunned. Then, he quickly ran forward. Boom! Another blow came. This time, it exploded behind him. Bang! The man was blown off his feet. He sensed that the other party was right behind him and was about to catch up. And he was no match at all. If this attack landed on him, he would not be able to survive. The fog. The other party was affected by the fog and couldn't kill him directly. If he allowed the other party to approach him, he would definitely die. He was terrified. Without any hesitation, he rushed towards his own people as fast as he could, regardless of whether the people behind followed or not. He had to go back. At the very least, he had to let them know that such a person existed. Someone had concealed their cultivation and was hiding in the crowd. Seeing the other party running so quickly, Jiang Lan was satisfied. He wasn't attacking him. However, every step he took made a sound, it would reach the other party's ears. He wanted him to know that he was always behind him. As long as he was slow, he would approach and take his life. Ta! 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 The sound of every one of his footsteps was heard by the man. They seemed to echo in his mind. It made him unable to calm down and he could constantly feel death in his heart. As long as he slowed down, the sound of footsteps would be heard. He had to keep accelerating. It was the only way the footsteps would get farther away, so far that he couldn't even hear them. But once he relaxed, he would hear it again. It was like death was chasing him. He did not dare to rest. Soon. Almost there. Almost there. The man kept running, occasionally looking behind him. He dared not slack off at all. Roar. It was the sound of a herd of beasts. Upon hearing this, the man's face relaxed. They were here. Finally. Spit. Ao Longyu retreated a few steps before spitting out a mouthful of blood. She tried to move her body, but it felt heavy. It was as if she could not control herself. She looked at the black-robed person unwillingly. If not for the fact that there were so many demonic beasts, she would not have ended up like this. Ao Longyu, you're dead. The black-robed man immediately launched his attack. Bang! It was a long sword. It pierced into Ao Longyu's body at an extremely fast speed. Spit. The sword pierced through Ao Longyu's body. Get lost. At this moment, Ao Longyu spat out a mouthful of blood essence. The powerful blood essence transformed into an attack and bombarded the black-robed man. However, the moment she spat out the blood essence, it became unstable. A portion of it landed directly on Ao Longyu's face. The blood had landed on the right side of her face. The wound was like a pattern running from her face to her neck. Boom! The black-robed man was sent flying. Ao Longyu could no longer stand. She half-knelt on the ground. After losing her blood essence, she was exceptionally weak. However, when she saw the black-robed man land safely on the ground, despair appeared in her eyes. She pursed her lips and remained silent. It looked like she was going to die here. The black-robed man threw away a Dharma treasure. It was a Dharma treasure that had been scrapped. If not for this treasure, he might have been seriously injured. Thankfully, I didn't underestimate your counterattack. So, die. The black-robed man was about to attack. This time, he would definitely injure his opponent severely. The dragon race was not easy to kill, but once they were heavily injured, they could be killed sooner or later. But just as he was about to attack, he suddenly heard footsteps. Ta! The footsteps came very suddenly, as if they were right beside him. The black-robed man was stunned for a moment and immediately looked towards the source of the footsteps. Who is it? The black-robed man asked warily. The black-robed men behind him reacted a little slower, but they also looked in the direction of the footsteps. Someone was approaching. Even Ao Longyu was baffled. Who would dare to approach at this time? However, she still moved her body into a defensive stance. However, with the sword in her body, there was no way she could make any big movements. Ta-ta-ta. At this moment, frantic footsteps could be heard. It was a frightened man. Ao Longyu frowned. It was a disciple of the fourth summit. She had seen him before. The other party was fleeing. Unfortunately, he had escaped to the wrong place. However, what surprised Ao Longyu was that the disciple from the fourth summit spoke directly to the black-robed person. It was as if they already knew each other. That again. Ao Longyu felt bitter. How many spies were there in Kunlun? The black-robed man frowned at the man. What he cared about was why this man was so terrified. Something has happened. Someone, PFFF. Halfway through, the man was rendered speechless. He looked down and realized that his body had been destroyed. He looked to the side and saw a blurry figure. However, he knew that this person was definitely the disciple from earlier. Devil. In the end, the man fell to the ground and completely lost his breath. Jiang Lan wasn't looking at the person on the ground. Instead, he looked at the black-robed person and said in a low voice, "Sorry to disturb you all." Chapter 22. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Blood Mist Everywhere Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. The black-robed man was surprised by the sudden appearance of this man. He did not notice the other party's presence at all. And the footsteps just now should have belonged to him. Ao Longyu looked at the person who had suddenly appeared in disbelief. She could not see him at all. But she seemed to have seen the way the other party punched before. And that calm look. But she couldn't be sure. Even if she was, she didn't know what his motive was. Whatever the case was, he was definitely not here to save her. She had a feeling that no matter who it was, as long as they provoked the other party would be able to kill them. But she was still grateful for his sudden appearance. At least she had a chance to catch her breath. This meant that she was a step closer to her master, realizing that there was a problem here. Who are you? The black-robed man looked at Jiang Lan with a frown. He did not expect such a person to suddenly appear at this time. And he didn't seem like someone simple at all. He killed a cultivator who had perfected the foundation establishment with just one punch. This was a golden core cultivator. One more golden core cultivator meant more pressure for him. I was just passing by this mystic realm, and Jiang Lan looked down at the dead man and said, "They found me an eyesore. It was indeed their fault that they did not like you, and now they have paid the price. Are you going to leave?" The black-robed man asked calmly. He did not want to make enemies for no reason. Success was right in front of him. There was no need to create more trouble. Jiang Lan turned to look at Ao Longyu and then at the black-robed man. He naturally knew that the other party wanted to kill Ao Longyu. And these people were the ones who had attracted the beast horde. They were the beginning of trouble. "I feel like you guys are affecting my tour here," Jiang Lan calmly said. If he left now, it would be equivalent to coming here for nothing. He was here to solve the problem at once. Also, these people probably knew that those people from before had went to look for him, so he should just deal with all of them. He couldn't wait for the other party to come looking for trouble with him. It would be too passive for him to resist again. Was he counting on the other party's conscience? Then you're just courting death. The black-robed man said to the person behind him, "Stop him, I'm going to deal with Ao Longyu." At this moment, the black-robed man gave up on Jianlan and was prepared to attack Ao Longyu. The demonic beasts began to move as well. They all headed in Jianlan's direction. The black-robed man didn't pay much attention to Jianlan. After dealing with Ao Longyu, he would then kill this mysterious person. As for the people from before, as long as they knew of their existence, none of them could survive. As for whether the beasts could stop Jianlan, the black-robed man didn't care. Wasn't Ao Longyu also exhausted from being surrounded by the beasts? Humans were indeed inferior to the dragons. Looking at the demonic beasts surrounding him, Jianlan frowned. There were too many of them. But it wouldn't take much time. In the next moment, Jianlan made his move. The moment Jianlan moved, the entire beast tide felt as if a hurricane had blown past. Boom! 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 Explosions rang out continuously like ear-splitting thunder from a clear sky. The massive momentum crashed into the black-robed man who was about to attack Ao Longyu. Surprised, he turned around to have a look. The black-robed figure's heart trembled at what he saw. His pupils constricted. In his eyes, he saw a person standing in a bloody mist. He stood there like a god of death in a mundane world. Below his feet was an endless sea of blood. As for the demonic beasts that belonged to them, they had all disappeared without a trace. Not only the beasts but his companions had disappeared as well. How is this possible? After finishing off all his enemies, Jianlan walked towards the black-robed man. He had just used the strength of 3 bulls earlier. And he had also used the 9 steps of heavenly travel. Otherwise, it would have taken quite some time. Fellow disciple, there must have been a misunderstanding, the black-robed man immediately said. The combat power displayed by the other party exceeded beyond his imagination. Could a golden core cultivator really kill so many beasts so easily? Was he in the late stage of the golden core realm? There shouldn't be such a strong person here. Ao Longyu was also staring blankly at the figure in the blood mist. He was powerful, calm, and decisive. This was definitely that person from before. He was also just passing by. She could not believe that the other party was so strong. Furthermore, based on the personality of the other party, if she were to affect him, she would definitely be killed as well. Is it a misunderstanding? Jianlan looked at the black-robed man and said coldly, "I wouldn't mind if this was the first time you're seeking trouble with me. But then it happened again. Now you're telling me it's a misunderstanding. Are you planning for a third time?" "No, definitely not," the black-robed man said anxiously. "This is definitely a misunderstanding. They must have acted on their own accord. Why will we trouble a fellow disciple? A misunderstanding." Jianlan appeared before the black-robed man in an instant. He raised his fist. "If my cultivation is not high enough, would it still be a misunderstanding?" As soon as he finished speaking, Jianlan punched him. Boom! The moment his fist landed, Jianlan frowned. Just as his fist was about to hit the black-robed man, a beam of light blocked his path. A powerful force erupted from the light. In order to not be struck by this power, he could only retreat a bit. Whoosh! The power let out a roar. Ao Longyu was sent flying. While the black-robed man was taken away by the light. There is an even stronger existence. Jianlan immediately made a guess. However, he was not slow at all. He immediately circulated his strongest power. The power of an early-stage golden core on top of his strength of 4 bulls. Trying to leave. With a low shout, a powerful force began to gather in Jiang Lan's fist. The surrounding trees rustled as if a storm was about to blow them apart. Boom! With a punch, the power surged towards the black-robed man who was about to escape like a storm. At this moment, the black-robed man's face was filled with fear as he looked at this horrifying power. He shouted at the sky, "Senior brother, save me." Chapter 23. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A.O. Long U.S. Fate Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. The moment the black-robed man cried for help, a wave of power comparable to Jiang Lan's attack followed subsequently. Boom! At this moment, Jiang Lan's attack collided with his opponent. The huge impact shattered the surrounding trees. Ao Longyu, who was not standing stably, was sent flying again. She was seriously injured. If this torment continued, she might really die here. However, the black-robed man was suffering the most. He was at the center of the two forces. A wave of power wanted to bring him away, while a wave of power wanted to kill him. The two sides were in a deadlock. Jiang Lan frowned. The person behind the scenes was very strong. At the very least, his cultivation was higher than his. But there was no way he could take this person away. He had not sensed the presence of a powerful being just now, but it was different now. He had sensed it. The other party had just rushed over and made a move at the last moment. Break it. At this moment, Jiang Lan's strength surged like a flood. It surged towards the black-robed man. Seeing that the power was about to hit him, the black-robed man screamed in fear. However, before he could even cry out, he was drowned out by Jiang Lan's power. In the end, he completely disappeared. After the attack, the surrounding trees were flattened to the ground. Jiang Lan stood still. He realized that the mastermind had left. He is very strong. If we really fought, I wonder if I would have been able to escape. The opponent was very strong. Jiang Lan didn't have the confidence to win. However, the other party seemed to be worried about something. My strength has almost depleted. I have to leave this place quickly. I hope there won't be any more trouble in the future. If there was, he had no choice but to hide. Being in the center of attention was better than being killed. At this moment, Jiang Lan felt a sense of danger. No, he shouldn't head out after he returned. He had to level up once more. Jiang Lan wasn't talking about advancing from the early stage to the mid stage, but from the golden core to the essence soul. If the bottleneck was too long, he would directly consume the creation pill. It was too dangerous to be weak. Then, Jiang Lan turned around and left. He needed to be more careful for now. The person behind the scenes was still alive. It was necessary to be vigilant. However, his target seemed to be Ao Longyu. Jiang Lan glanced in Ao Longyu's direction and discovered that she was still alive. However, he didn't approach her, nor did he have any intention of talking to her. Those were all troubles. Furthermore, he was not familiar with Ao Longyu. Although the other party was severely injured, she would not die. What happened from now would depend on her own luck. Jiang Lan could possibly be in big trouble as well. That person behind the scenes was not easy to deal with at all. Fortunately, there are no other disciples in the 9th summit, or else it would be very troublesome. If he had junior brothers and sisters, that meant that there were many people who needed to be taken care of, just like how Ao Longyu was drawn into trouble so easily. Wouldn't he be troubled to death? He hoped that Master would not take in any more disciples. With this thought in mind, Jiang Lan disappeared on the spot. He used the 9 steps of heavenly travel to return back to the protective circle. He would waiting for help or for the other disciples to arrive. Of course, if whoever appeared were enemies, he would have to make decisions based on the situation. Lin Xia and the rest, who were originally leaving, suddenly heard a tremendously loud boom. It rumbled. The immense power had also affected their side. Lin Xia looked in the direction of the energy storm and realized that it was where her senior sister was. She hesitated, then stopped. You guys leave first. I'll go back and find senior sister, but with that, she ignored the others and headed straight for Ao Longyu. No matter how she looked at it, her senior sister could not escape. Mo Li exchanged a glance with a female disciple before the two of them followed. The others hesitated, but only one of them followed. The rest continued to flee. This was everyone's choice. Some people chose to risk it. They did not believe that the other party would let them off. The rest of them either felt that there was a chance for them to escape or that they did not want to cause trouble. No one was foolish. They were all just choosing the paths that would benefit them the most. As for whether they could survive in the end, that would depend on their abilities. Before long, Jiang Lan returned to the protective circle. On the way back, he noticed that the fog was dissipating. This meant that there shouldn't be any problems here. Those people had started to retreat. There's no one around, and no sign of anyone passing by. Everything looks fine. Jiang Lan walked into the protective circle. He sat inside and waited for those people to return. However, Ao Longyu was severely injured, so it was unknown whether she would be killed halfway. Jiang Lan sat cross-legged. He was waiting and testing the waters. He wanted to see if that powerful person would come looking for him. Because he could not be completely sure if that person knew about the plan of those people who attacked him previously. For a long time, Jiang Lan didn't feel like he was being watched. There shouldn't be any problems. It was morning. The sky was bright. The fog had dissipated. Jiang Lan noticed that there were people heading toward him. 5 people. Soon, these 5 people entered his field of vision. One was a woman with a pattern on the left side of her face. It was blood. Red in color, as though it was a wound. Both her hands were covered in blood. She must have endured the ravages of terrifying power. This person was Ao Longyu. Beside Ao Longyu was a female golden core cultivator. Jiang Lan didn't know her. The other 3 were at the Perfected Foundation establishment realm. One of the senior sisters should be on his team. Jiang Lan had seen her once before, so he should be correct. He did not know the rest. However, these people were more or less injured. Looks like those people retreated. Jiang Lan thought. It should be safe now. After that, he waited patiently for help. Chapter 24. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Senior sister is here. Translator. Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios. Ao Longyu and the others arrived before the protective barrier. Jiang Lan immediately stood up. Then, he looked at them and felt that as a junior brother, he should do something. But thinking about it, he couldn't seem to do anything. So he could only stand by the side. They came in and saw Jiang Lan, but no one said anything. After putting Ao Longyu down, Lin Xia turned to Jiang Lan and asked, Junior brother, did anyone come here during this period? Jiang Lan shook his head. No, he had checked the surroundings and found no obvious traces. Therefore, he didn't intend to say that someone had been here. That would be hard to explain. He could just cut off the follow-up. Lin Xia did not ask further as there was nothing else to ask. Then, she said to everyone, they should have received news about this outside. Let's just wait here for help. If you want to have a breakthrough, you can also look for opportunities nearby. I will guard the surroundings. Do not exceed my perimeter. Otherwise, you can only rely on yourselves. The others said nothing and only nodded their heads. Then, they left the protective circle. Jiang Lan was a bit surprised. These senior brothers and sisters seemed to have their own ideas. They were not people who would sit back and do nothing. After everyone left, Jianlan also turned around and left. He went with the flow. Ao Longyu was still severely injured. She didn't say anything as she looked at the departing figures. It was not easy to survive this time. First, there was the help of the disciple from the 9th summit. Then, there was the powerful cultivator who suddenly appeared. In the end, her junior sister came back to save her. Perhaps she was not destined to die. After everyone left, Lin Xia sat opposite Ao Longyu and asked, "Senior sister, I didn't hold you back, did I?" Ao Longyu looked at Lin Xia and remained silent. Jianlan left the protective circle, but he didn't go too far. He found a random place to sign in. What he got was a medicinal pill, the powerful Vajrapani pill. Its effect was very simple. It could temporarily increase his strength by 2 times. When combined with the power of 9 bulls, it would be astonishingly formidable. But it would be easy to deplete his energy. Jianlan paid no attention to this and arrived at a lake. He looked at the lake water and felt that it was excessively clear. There were fish swimming in the lake without causing any ripples. It was natural, like the lines of the great Tao. At this moment, Jianlan felt his mind clear up as his entire body fell into the charm of the great Tao. The doubts in his heart suddenly cleared up, and he gained a deeper understanding of what he had learned. At this moment, Jianlan knew that he had encountered an opportunity in the mystic realm. Without any hesitation, he took advantage of the situation. The next day, Jianlan opened his eyes. He felt that although his cultivation hadn't changed much, it had become much sturdier. And he had a better understanding of many things. Just like when the Taoist scripture was still around. Looks like I'll be promoting to the foundation establishment realm right here. Jianlan thought. However, he still sensed the others. Everyone was nearby. Ao Longyu and Zhang Xian should still be there. The others didn't go too far either. Although I have my own thoughts, I know my limits. Jianlan nodded. However, he soon realized that there were people walking over. It should be the others from before. Jianlan didn't mind. Ao Longyu and the others should be the ones who were most concerned. If they felt that it was dangerous, then he'll see how it goes. After that, Jianlan decided to close his eyes and cultivate. He had to show that he was breaking through to the foundation establishment realm on the surface. However, just as he sat down and was about to cultivate, he suddenly realized that both golden core cultivators had moved. One was heading toward him, while the other was heading toward the crowd that had suddenly appeared. Why is the cultivator coming towards me? Jianlan was puzzled. He was sure that he was the only one around. This person was definitely coming for him. What did he do to expose himself? The moment of enlightenment. That was impossible. He was protected by the mist of the Kunlun heart technique and his magical power, the one-leaf vision. Even if it was an epiphany, he couldn't have revealed his cultivation level. Jianlan closed his eyes, not showing any concern. Perhaps it was just a coincidence. If they were really looking for him, he would see what they were up to. Soon, Jianlan heard the sound of someone landing. He turned around and saw that it was the injured Ao Longyu. Senior sister Ao. Jianlan stood up respectfully. At this moment, Ao Longyu's feet were bare. It seemed like she was injured, but it didn't seem like a big problem. Her hand had recovered its fairness and was completely different from before. What a strong recovery ability. Jianlan was surprised. However, he did not observe anything else. It was not a polite thing to do so. Of course, he also knew one thing. The dragon race's corporeal body was very powerful. Such heavy injuries mostly recover after a night. This was many times stronger than them. Just as Jianlan was feeling astonished by the dragon race's physique, he heard a crisp and pleasant voice. However, it didn't carry any emotions. Is junior brother intending to advance to the foundation establishment realm? It was Ao Longyu. Jiang Lan naturally agreed. Yes, I felt something in my heart last night and felt that I'll probably succeed. He had indeed entered a state of enlightenment. Presumably, his two senior sisters also knew. Therefore, it was reasonable for him to advance. It was just that the other party's arrival confused Jiang Lan. Ao Longyu threw a bottle of pills at Jiang Lan. Then, a calm voice was heard. These are foundation-building pills. Junior Brother's repelling array formation is far more valuable than the spirit language spell. With these foundation-building pills, I should have make it even between us. Chapter 25. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When will I become an immortal? Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Jiang Lan held the bottle in surprise. He didn't expect his senior sister to come for this. There was a high chance that his trick has helped her out. When he fought with the black-robed man back then, the lack of fog had a significant impact. It was likely that she had used his repelling array formation and the spirit language spell. A genius was indeed a genius. In the end, Jiang Lan thanked her. Thank you, senior sister Ao. He did not reject it as if he accepted it, they would not owe each other anything. Although Jiang Lan had many foundation-building pills. As the only disciple of the 9th Summit, he definitely did not lack resources when he advanced to the foundation establishment realm. His master had given him many foundation-building pills. If he didn't have enough, there would definitely be a pile waiting for him to collect. This was the benefit of being the only disciple. Ao Longyu nodded at Jiang Lan before turning to leave. It was good that the other party was willing to accept it. She was only afraid that he wouldn't. As for the other party's advancement, Ao Longyu would naturally help guard him. It was her duty. Jiang Lan watched the other party leave and didn't pay her much mind. Then, he sat down cross-legged and began cultivating. He also ate a foundation-building pill. It would be unreasonable not to eat one. Tomorrow morning, he would successfully enter the foundation-building realm. In the future, he would not have to check if there were any mental demons when he returned. It would depend on when his master remembered to check. He did not reject this kind of thing because he might not even know about it the moment he had mental demons. The only way to find out was to get someone to check. Therefore, since his master had not checked for a long time, he would probably ask his master to do so. On the 9th summit of Kunlun Mountain, Mo Jingdong suddenly received a message. After reading it, he stood up and disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already on the 3rd summit. And where he stood was the entrance of the 3rd summit's mystic realm. There were many people here. A woman was leading the group. She was elegant, beautiful, and exuded a powerful aura. Before her, the rest seemed to be lacking in their presence. She was the 3rd summit's peak master, Zhu Qing. Senior brother Mo is here. Zhu Qing asked softly when she saw Mo Jingdong. Mo Jingdong nodded. Then, he looked at the entrance of the mystic realm and said, "What's going on inside?" Yes, he had received the news that there was a problem here. That was why he had specially went over. His only disciple was inside. And it was a disciple he wished would stay in the 9th summit. If something were to happen, where would he find such a good disciple again? This was the disciple that he was the most satisfied with in the past few thousand years. After 10 years, he would become his personal disciple. How could he not care? The storm in the passage is still going on. It will take another day to get in. Zhu Qing's expression was not good either. This was her territory, but yet they were met with a mishap. Furthermore, there were many of her disciples inside. But she could understand Mo Jingdong. The only disciple of the 9th summit was in there, and he had only perfected the qi refinement stage. The slightest carelessness could result in one's death. Mo Jingdong remained silent. He asked Jiang Lan to come because he knew Jiang Lan's temperament. With Jiang Lan's temperament, as long as nothing unexpected happened, he would definitely know how to protect himself and avoid danger. However, a huge accident just had to happen. Right now, he didn't have any extravagant hopes that Jiang Lan would advance to the Foundation establishment realm. As long as he was fine, it was good enough. Of course, if he knew who did this, he would let them know that even though there was no one on the 9th summit, not everyone could bully them. The next day, Jiang Lan opened his eyes and adjusted his cultivation to early-stage Foundation establishment. He had successfully advanced to the Foundation establishment realm. However, he discovered that the others weren't slow either. They were also advancing as well. A genius is indeed a genius. It's so easy for them to advance to the Golden Core realm. Jiang Lan still felt that Kunlun was truly impressive. Just this one trip to the Mystic Realm gave birth to so many Golden Core cultivators. There was a reason why Kunlun Mountain was so famous. Of course, the main thing was that Kunlun did not accept people with poor qualifications. Although his aptitude was considered poor in Kunlun, he was still stronger than most people. Thereafter, Jiang Lan stood up and decided to walk around. He'll try things out in the meantime. This was something normal people would do. L.C. However, he had only taken a few steps when he realized that something was amiss in the sky. It was as if a storm had appeared. They're finally here. Jiang Lan let out a sigh of relief. The people from Kunlun had arrived. This meant that there was no longer any great danger here. Although he had been cultivating these 2 days, he was more or less vigilant of his surroundings. If there was any danger, he would immediately sense it. However, the mastermind never appeared. It also made him feel relieved. Otherwise, he really wouldn't be able to win. However, he did not understand why the other party gave up so suddenly. Part of it could be that he can't see through me. At that time, his one-leaf vision had been activated. The other party could only see him as a fog. Therefore, he did not know that Jiang Lan had already used up all his strength at that time. It was impossible for him to unleash the same power again at that moment. Now that he had the powerful Vajrapani pill, he might have a slight chance of winning. Just as Jiang Lan was thinking this, a passage appeared in the sky. As soon as the passage opened, a powerful aura was transmitted directly. It was so powerful that Jiang Lan had no way of resisting. Immortals. This was Jiang Lan's first thought. Facing this group of auras, he instinctively felt fear. This was the difference between immortals and mortals. However, this aura soon disappeared. There were quite a few people who had landed. This time, Jiang Lan didn't dare to probe with his perception. I wonder when I'll become an immortal. Jiang Lan muttered to himself. Right now, he didn't want to get close to Ao Longyu and the rest so as to reduce his presence. Chapter 26. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 3 years, and 3 years more. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Jiang Lan originally planned to hide his existence and leave together with them. But it didn't seem easy. Someone was flying directly towards him. He didn't need to sense to know who it was. It was his master, Mo Jingdong. Sure enough, Mo Jingdong soon landed in front of him. Greetings, master. Jiang Lan lowered his head and greeted respectfully without hesitation. Mo Jingdong looked at Jiang Lan and didn't ask anything else. He only asked something that he would normally ask. The Foundation establishment stage. Yes, master. I've reached the Foundation establishment realm. Jiang Lan didn't say anything else and merely responded to his master's expectations. I will bring you back. Mo Jingdong immediately brought Jiang Lan away from the 3rd summit's mystic realm. They did not meet up with anyone else and he did not ask about what happened either. As long as his disciple was fine. The rest was not his responsibility. His duty was no less than anyone else's. Jiang Lan allowed his master to take him away. This was also what he wanted. When he appeared in front of others, he would always be the center of attention. This was not good for him. As the only disciple of the ninth summit, he could enjoy resources that many people did not have. Sometimes, this could bring about hate or discomfort. Most people would only think that a disciple with an average talent did not deserve to have so many resources. Or that if he was not the only disciple of the ninth summit, he would still be at the fourth or fifth level of chi refinement. Very few people would think that it was because he could stay in the ninth summit while others could not. His resources were obtained through the risk of mental demons taking advantage of him at any moment. However, his master treated him very well. On the way back, Mo Jingdong asked Jiang Lan, since you're now in the foundation establishment realm, what kind of Dharma treasure do you want? Mo Jingdong was very pleased that he had reached foundation establishment in just 3.5 years. This was comparable to the other genius disciples. Of course, the gap between their potential may widen later on. However, he was still extremely gratified. I will take whatever master gives me, Jiang Lan said in a low voice. He actually didn't know what he wanted. You're making things difficult for me, Mo Jingdong said with a smile. There was no trace of difficulty in his eyes. It was as if he already knew what was more suitable for him. Jiang Lan was also looking forward to it. The next day, Jiang Lan received a black and white egg. An egg. After all, it was not much bigger than an egg. It's a spirit pet. Mo Jingdong smiled. This is a variation of the cloud tiger spirit egg. It was said that after it was born, it fell beside a netherworld treasure. Under normal circumstances, if an ordinary spirit beast were to come into contact with the netherworld aura, it would surely die. However, this egg unexpectedly survived. Therefore, it was definitely possible for him to have adapted to the netherworld aura. However, I have tested it many times since it's regarding the netherworld. I only dared to hand it to you when I was sure it was all right. It shouldn't be a problem for you since you're in the foundation establishment realm. Mo Jingdong looked at Jiang Lan and said calmly, there are no other disciples in the ninth summit. I'll leave this spirit beast egg to you. Jiang Lan accepted the spirit beast egg and lowered his head. Thank you, master. Ninth summit did not have any other disciples. After all, he was still young, and it was inevitable that he would feel lonely. Besides, the disciples of the ninth summit were not welcomed by the disciples of the other peaks. Therefore, his master prepared this spirit beast egg for him. A spirit beast egg that could survive in the ninth summit. After accepting the spirit beast egg, Jiang Lan could feel that it would hatch in a few days. However, he was wrong. 3 years had passed. The egg beside him showed no signs of hatching. He wondered if the egg was dead. However, there were indeed signs of life after checking, and it was very stable. It was as if it had fallen asleep. Forget it, I'll wait a little longer. Perhaps it'll hatch in a few years. I'll continue my seclusion. Now, he realized that advancing to the essence soul realm was surprisingly difficult. In 3 years, he could barely enter the mid-stage of the golden core realm. It would take him decades to reach major perfection. Wouldn't ordinary disciples take more than a few hundred years? At this moment, Jiang Lan could sense how difficult it was to become an immortal. In the following days, Jiang Lan remained in seclusion. After returning from the third summit, he had stopped caring about what was happening outside. He had been hiding in the netherworld cave all this time, signing in and cultivating. 3 years passed once more. One day, his master suddenly came looking for him. Master. Jiang Lan was the first to greet Mo Jingdong as he entered the netherworld cave. Have you taken the netherworld cave as your home? Mo Jingdong asked Jiang Lan. His voice carried a hint of a smile. Today marked Jiang Lan's 10th year at the ninth summit. This was something that had never happened before. In the past, regardless of what kind of disciples, no matter how special they could never stay in the ninth summit for more a few years. He had never seen one who had been here for 5 years. Not to mention 10. Therefore, from only taking in disciples with high potential at the beginning, he had reduced to taking in ordinary disciples. There was no other reason than the fact that more talented disciples could only stay for a shorter period of time. If one's talent was too good, they would have far-reaching ambitions. Therefore, it was easier for them to be invaded by inner demons. Of course, ordinary disciples were not much stronger either. Jianlan was a real surprise to him. I feel like I cultivate faster here, so I can't bear to leave. Jianlan lowered his head. He was telling the truth. Mo Jingdong remained silent. The netherworld aura was something that everyone avoided, yet his disciple was unwilling to leave. For a moment, he wanted to laugh. In the end, he held it in. Go down the mountain and buy a bottle of good wine. Mo Jingdong tossed Jianlan a ton of spirit stones. Chapter 27. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A spirit pet that can't hatch. Translator. Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios. Jianlan took the spirit stones and was momentarily curious. Why did Master suddenly ask him to buy a bottle of good wine today? He had been in the ninth summit for so long, but he had never seen his master drink. Of course, although he was puzzled, it was not a difficult task to buy wine. He naturally would not reject it. Yes, master. After that, Jianlan left the ninth summit. His cultivation was still at the mid-stage golden core realm. The spirit herbs in the ninth summit could not help him much. After all, there were no golden core spirit herbs. Therefore, he could only count on signing in. Over the past few years, he had been receiving repeated items. But there were also other things. For example, some Dharma treasures, runes, cultivation techniques, and spells. They were just rarely useful. What he was cultivating now was basically the Kunlun Heart Sutra, the 9 steps of heavenly travel, and the power of 9 bulls. He had already cultivated the power of 9 bulls to 5 bulls. That it was very difficult to go any higher. However, he roughly estimated that the power of 5 bulls was many times stronger than the power of 4 bulls. If he went to the third summit's mystic realm again, he might be able to confront the person behind the scenes. He had also received some news regarding the third summit. It was said that it had been due to some disciples being swapped out that resulted in that unforeseen event. Revenge against the dragon race was actually just an excuse. Their true goal was to obtain the treasures in the third mystic realm, and it was very difficult to obtain those hidden treasures. In order to find a way, they used the cruel method of blood sacrifice. That was what gave rise to that scene. Jianlan didn't care if this was true or false. He didn't care who was lying. As long as he wasn't found out. Yes, from beginning to end, no one had mentioned him. His master did not mention him either. Thus, from the looks of it, he had hidden himself very well. I need to practice my swordplay when I'm free. As Jianlan descended the mountain, this thought flashed across his mind. Because he had always focused on offensive power, he spent most of his time cultivating the power of 9 bulls. He rarely practiced his swordplay. They were just simple practices. It might be useless against an enemy. However, swordplay was more normal. Furthermore, he could not use the power of 9 bulls in front of others. Actually, there were many things that he could not use in front of others. Fortunately, during the years he spent in the ninth summit, he had plenty of Dharma treasures and pills. Of course, he had a spirit pet as well. Except, for some unknown reason, after 6 years, his spirit pet had yet to hatch. However, there was definitely no problem with its life force. He asked his master. But his master was also confused. Therefore, he could only wait. Perhaps it would hatch in another 2 years. I was hoping it would open a door for me. But instead, I get more trouble. Jiang Lan sighed inwardly. Now, he would help to inspect it when he was free and pour some spirit liquid on it. To prevent his pet from being malnourished and therefore unable to break out of its shell. Jiang Lan left Kunlun Mountain. There were some places at the foot of the mountain that could be considered as part of Kunlun Mountain. It was said that the elderly sweepers in some places could be some elders of Kunlun Mountain. Just that they were conducting a form of self-cultivation at the foot of the mountain. In short, this rumor never stopped. As for whether it was true or not, no one knew. The probability of that happening should be quite high. Among these rumors, one was related to alcohol. That was the old wine tavern below Kunlun Mountain. It was said that the best wine in Kunlun was from there. I've reached. Jiang Lan stood in front of the inn. It looked crudely simple. This place mainly sold alcohol, so there weren't that many people. As for spending the night, there were very few people stationed at Kunlun, so no one would stay behind to rest. After all, they were all cultivators. It wouldn't be a problem if they didn't rest. When he entered the inn, he saw a few ordinary wooden tables. There was not a single guest. Knock knock. Jiang Lan knocked on the counter. He saw a child sleeping on the counter. It was a little boy. When the boy got up, Jiang Lan said softly, "I want a bottle of good wine. Grandpa isn't back yet. We need to wait for a while. Only Grandpa can open the good wine." The little boy rubbed his eyes as he looked at Jiang Lan. "How long do we have to wait?" Jiang Lan asked softly. "I don't know. It might take till the evening," said the boy. Jiang Lan nodded before sitting to the side to wait. He didn't know what good wine was, but he just waited patiently. While Jiang Lan was waiting, another person walked in. It was a woman. Jiang Lan looked over. The other party's strength made Jiang Lan feel a bit strange, as if it was a bit chaotic. Curious, he glanced at her. He discovered that it was a girl who looked like a country bumpkin. Her clothes were very ordinary, or rather, shabby. A demon. This was Jiang Lan's first thought. He was very surprised. What kind of demon dared to walk around below Kunlun Mountain? The other party came in and looked around cautiously to see if there was anyone around. Soon, she saw Jiang Lan. In that instant, Jiang Lan could sense that she was taken aback. Her hands and feet were a little helpless, and she was a little flustered. It was as if she wanted to escape but also wanted to enter. She quickly made up her mind and walked to the counter with a frown. Perhaps it was because she saw that Jiang Lan was only at the foundation establishment stage, that's why she became a bit bolder. Yes, on the surface, Jiang Lan was only at mid-stage foundation establishment. Reaching mid-stage foundation establishment after 10 years of cultivation was actually quite impressive, although he was only at mid-stage. Chapter 28. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Feeling a differential treatment translator. Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios. Jiang Lan didn't pay much attention to the demon that suddenly entered. This demon didn't look weak, it was at late-stage foundation establishment. However, her strength was only considered not weak among the new generation of disciples. To Kunlun as a whole, it was simply a small animal. It was normal for the other party to be so flustered. It was very easy to encounter powerful cultivators here. There were golden core, essence soul, and void returning cultivators everywhere. It was normal to encounter immortals as well. As a demon, it was hard to say what would happen to her. Looks like she took a risk to come here, but what for? Although Jiang Lan was curious, he didn't dwell on it. He was here to buy good wine. Give me a pot of ordinary wine. It was the voice of the demoness. She stood in front of the counter and handed over a gourd and a spirit stone. She wrapped the spirit stone very well, as if she was worried about losing it. Jiang Lan lowered his head, not paying it any mind. He just waited patiently. At this moment, another person walked in. It was another woman. However, when she walked in, she really frightened the demoness at the counter. It was as if she was naturally suppressed. It was the might of a dragon. Jiang Lan immediately sensed it. Ao Longyu. The moment that person walked in, Jiang Lan knew who it was. The current Ao Longyu was still stunning. The wound on her right cheek seemed to have disappeared. When he looked at it again, he felt that there were still some faint marks. As if dissipating them was only temporary. When Ao Longyu entered, she first glanced at Jiang Lan, then at the demoness. The demoness' hair stood on end, and she immediately walked out with her wine and her head lowered. Her body trembled as she walked. It was as if she was afraid that Ao Longyu would suddenly attack her. In the end, Ao Longyu only watched as the demoness left. She also walked to the counter. A bottle of good wine. Jiang Lan thought that she would need to wait like him. But he realized he was wrong. Here is your good wine. The youth handed Ao Longyu a bottle of wine. Jiang Lan was silent. He felt like he had received differential treatment. Ao Longyu took the wine and turned to Jiang Lan. Junior brother also wants good wine. Jiang Lan immediately stood up and nodded. Yes. Actually, he didn't even know what good wine was. Since his master said so, he just passed the message on. Junior brother, you'd better tell them a day in advance. That way, the boss would have prepared it before he leaves. Otherwise, you can only wait for him to return, Ao Longyu reminded. Many thanks for senior sister's reminder. Jiang Lan immediately thanked her. Now he understood why Ao Longyu was able to obtain the wine immediately. However, his master did not tell him about this. However, he could still buy it on the same day, so it wasn't a big problem. He just had to wait for a while. He was in no hurry. With that, Ao Longyu turned around and left. She had quite an impression of this disciple of the 9th summit. However, the disciples of the 9th summit could still descend the mountain. After what happened 6 years ago, the disciples of the 9th summit stopped participating in many things, as if they wanted to avoid what happened 6 years ago. Jiang Lan watched as Ao Longyu left. Amongst everyone else from the other summits, he probably only knew Ao Longyu's full name. Of course, he never thought of being familiar with this senior sister. He only needed seclusion. To sign in peacefully and cultivate in peace. When he became an immortal, he could then head out more often. Of course, in the grand desolate world, there were many immortals, devils, and gods. It was still extremely dangerous. Once he became an immortal, he would be able to go out often. It shouldn't be much of a problem. Thereafter, Jiang Lan ignored everything else. Instead, he closed his eyes and began to cultivate his temperament. Soon, it was afternoon. Jiang Lan sat there waiting and had never moved since. The youth at the counter looked at Jiang Lan curiously. He felt that this person was different from the others. He was too quiet. Could he have fallen asleep? The young man was curious. He looked at Jiang Lan for half the afternoon, but he didn't feel him move or make any sound. He must have fallen asleep. The wine bottle behind you is about to drop. Jiang Lan opened his eyes, looking towards that youth, kindly reminding him. At this moment, the youngster regained his senses and looked behind. He realized that there was indeed a wine bottle rocking back and forth, as if it could fall to the ground at any moment. Without another word, the young man caught the bottle. Thank you. Oh right, Grandpa should be back soon. After the young man placed the bottle of wine down, he continued, every time I break a wine bottle, Grandpa would come back after a while. I think the wine bottle is reminding me. Jiang Lan nodded slightly. He felt that it was not reminding this young man but checking to see if he was slacking off instead. However, it was just a coincidence that he figured this out. He suddenly had a breakthrough in his temperament. As long as he had sufficient time to advance to the essence soul stage, there shouldn't be much of an issue. Jiang Lan was very concerned about these things in the netherworld cave. Although his inner demons were far away, he could not relax too much. He was going against the current. If he did not advance, he would end up retreating. Not long after, Jiang Lan heard a voice from the back of the inn. The innkeeper must have returned. Indeed, an elder walked out from behind the inn. It was an old man who looked very energetic. Jiang Lan immediately went to the counter. "Grandpa, he wants some good wine." At this moment, the young man immediately helped relay Jiang Lan's request. The old man didn't look at Jiang Lan but at the wine bottle that wasn't broken. Chapter 29. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Becoming a Personal Disciple Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. After glancing at the wine bottle, the old man looked at Jiang Lan and said, "You brought spirit stones." "Yes." Jiang Lan handed over all the spirit stones his master had given him. The old man took a look at the spirit stones and kept them. Then he took the topmost wine from the liquor cabinet. It was a small bottle, probably enough for only 2 or 3 mouthfuls. He put the wine on the counter. "Kid, you've invested quite a bit to enter the peaceful void lake. If you give this wine to that person, you will definitely be able to enter the center of the peaceful void lake. If you tell him there's only 1 bottle left, he'll be even more enthusiastic." Jiang Lan was confused. Peaceful void lake. He did not know about this. Could it be that master wants me to enter the peaceful void lake? What kind of place was the peaceful void lake? He had no idea either. However, the other party was clearly reminding him out of good intentions. "Thank you, senior, for your reminder." Jiang Lan thanked him. Then, he turned around and left with his wine. Today's mission was considered completed. However, he could tell that the owner of this inn was not an ordinary person. As for his cultivation, he couldn't tell at the moment. He was probably rather strong. "I try signing in here the next time I'm free," Jiang Lan thought to himself. After that, he headed towards Kunlun Mountain. After Jiang Lan left, the elder looked at the youth with surprise in his eyes. "What enlightenment did you have today that helped you stop the wine bottle from breaking?" "Ha!" The young man didn't quite understand, but his grandfather seemed to think that he had discovered that the bottle was about to fall earlier. How did Grandpa know the bottle was going to fall? The teenager had a flash of doubt. When the old man saw the young man's shocked expression, he knew that things didn't occur as he had thought. "Tell me, how did you manage to protect the bottle?" The old man looked at the ground and said, "Were you coincidentally sleeping on the ground and it fell on you?" "No," the young man immediately said, "I was leaning forward when I slept." The elder remained silent. "When I was in a daze, that big brother earlier reminded me." Speaking of this, the young man was in high spirits and said in surprise, "That big brother sat there earlier." He clearly had his eyes closed, but he still knew that the wine bottle was going to drop. "I didn't believe it at first, but when I looked back, I realized that it was true." "Grandpa, how did he do it? Did he activate his heavenly eye?" Even if he had opened his heavenly eye, he wouldn't have been able to see the wine bottle falling. This was what the elder wanted to say. But he really wanted to find out who that big brother was. "Who are you talking about?" the elder asked. "The one who just bought the good wine," the young man said. "Are you sure that he sat over there?" The old man pointed to a corner. The youth nodded affirmatively and added, "And his eyes were closed." The elder was surprised. Even a little taken aback. He's only in mid-stage of the Foundation establishment realm. How did he sense the bottle I left behind? What kind of temperament does this person have? To know about the wine bottle he had left behind, one's temperament was the main focus. Either their cultivation level surpassed his, or they had a unique temperament. Otherwise, it was impossible for them to sense that it was specially prepared to watch the little fellow in the shop. The others were considered people outside the room. To be aware of what was within the room from the outside. Such a temperament. Even if it can't be considered transcendent, it should already be approaching it, right? Does someone like him need to bring alcohol to that fella when they go to the peaceful void lake? You really can't judge a book by its cover. I wonder which peak he is from and whose disciple he is. Jiang Lan had been walking towards Kunlun Mountain. However, when he was halfway there, he heard some noises not far ahead. It sounded like the cry of a wild beast. Then, he continued walking forward. He didn't feel like there was any fight going on. It wasn't necessary for him to take a detour. Soon, Jiang Lan arrived in front of a broken wall. He glanced down. Then, he saw two people hiding below. Or two demons. A male and a female. There seemed to be a ball of fire burning in front of the male. Cracks had appeared on his body. This is spirit wine. It can alleviate your injuries. Never mind about me. I can't be saved. No. The demoness shook her head in disbelief. At this moment, wanted to say something, but he suddenly saw a figure on the broken wall. He was utterly shocked. He immediately pulled the demoness behind him. Then, he knelt down. Please forgive me, immortal. Jiang Lan was a little surprised when the other party knelt down. Did he look like an immortal? At this moment, the demoness also saw Jiang Lan. She lowered her head and didn't dare to say anything. She looked helpless and clearly wanted to escape with the other. Jiang Lan looked at them before turning to leave. However, before leaving, he left behind a sentence. This is the only way to get to Kunlun. These two demons were simply courting death by hiding here. Seeing that these two had just arrived and knew nothing about their roots, Jiang Lan was just reminding them. As for whether these two were dead or alive, he didn't care. At that moment, the two demons exchanged glances. With the support of the demoness, the two of them left the place. Before they left, they bowed respectfully in the direction where Jiang Lan departed. Jiang Lan returned to the 9th summit just as the sky was about to turn dark. Master, your wine. Jiang Lan originally intended to give the wine to his master. Before he could finish, Mo Jingdong said, kneel down and kowtow 3 times. Jiang Lan was baffled, but he still knelt down and kowtowed 3 times. After seeing Jiang Lan kneel down and kowtow, Mo Jingdong continued, hand the wine over and say that this is to show your respect to your master. Jiang Lan was even more confused. What was master doing? However, he did not refuse. After handing over the wine bottle, Jiang Lan said, to show respect to master. Mo Jingdong took the wine and laughed. All right. From today onwards, you are my eldest personal disciple. Jiang Lan was stunned. So that was what was going on. Today was the day he would become his master's personal disciple. No wonder his master asked him to buy a bottle of good wine. However, he had a question. Master, will there be any difference from before? Mo Jingdong was stunned for a while before saying, I suppose there is. For example? Jiang Lan asked curiously. For example, Mo Jingdong thought for a moment and said, from now on, your title will change. You will now be known as the eldest personal disciple of the 9th summit. Jiang Lan was silent. Chapter 30. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Master, you're disturbing my mind. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Today, Jiang Lan became the 9th summit's eldest personal disciple. Although it didn't seem to be of much use. However, the title sounded better now. After all, he was the only disciple of the 9th summit. Ordinary or personal disciples were no different. They would all be nurtured with all their master's might. There was no difference in resources. This was the disparity from the other peaks. Master, you can tell me about this in advance next time, Jianlan said after getting up. He could do something like paying respects to his master himself. However, he did not know that his master wanted to take him in as a personal disciple. As long as he had given a slight reminder, he would also buy something to show respect to his master. Even though he didn't have any spirit stones. Mo Jingdong smiled and said, "There will be a next time." Jianlan was silent. It seemed like there wouldn't. Jianlan then returned to the netherworld cave. Now, he had built a house in the cave and was completely living there. The entrance to the netherworld had become a well not far from his residence. Of course, this matter had been approved by his master. It was because of this that the frequency of his mind being examined increased. However, the house outside was still there. He could go back and stay there anytime. After becoming a personal disciple, Jianlan didn't have much to do outside. Perhaps he would have to go out again when he had reached major perfection in the Foundation establishment realm. As for now, he naturally needed to enter seclusion to quickly advance to the Essence Soul realm. Ding! Signed in successfully. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the gift of the Great Tao. You have obtained the Dharma treasure, the Godly Training Mirror. Godly Training Mirror. Reflect the weak points of your spiritual consciousness and activate your training. If you succeed on training them, you will be able to obtain sufficient refinement. This was what Jianlan received when he had signed in during his seclusion. It had no other use but to prepare him for the soul formation realm. If he saw the formation of his essence soul as the final destination, then the Godly Training Mirror was a paved path. It allowed him to approach the essence soul with the fastest speed. Jianlan stayed in the 9th summit and no longer paid attention to what was happening outside. This stay lasted for 30 years. Crack. On this day, Jianlan woke up from his cultivation. It was also on this day that cracks appeared on the Godly Training Mirror. Bang! As Jianlan completely woke up, the Godly Training Mirror had completely shattered. I've achieved major perfection for my Gold ED core. Jianlan didn't pay much attention to the Godly Training Mirror. He already knew this would happen. He was already surprised that it could last so long. However, he still didn't step into the Essence Soul realm. This disappointed him. Indeed, it has something to do with talent. I feel that it will be soon, but I still need some time. Although Jianlan was troubled, he didn't really mind. He had only cultivated for 40 years. And he was about to reach the Essence Soul realm in 40 years. Even the geniuses of Kunlun were at most attempting to break through to the Golden Core realm. It would take them at least 150 years or even 200 years to reach the Essence Soul realm. As for those with average talent, it was possible for them to take 300 to 400 years. Any worse than that and they wouldn't be able to enter Kunlun. This is because they had limited lifespans at the Golden Core cultivation realm. Jianlan originally had average talent, but as he had all the resources of the 9th summit, his speed could keep up with some geniuses. For example, after 40 years of cultivation, his cultivation level on the surface remained at the perfected foundation establishment stage. It would not take long for him to reach the Golden Core realm. However, he wasn't in a hurry regarding this. What he cared about was how to break through to the Essence Soul realm. He had a creation pill. If he ate it now, he could advance to the Essence Soul realm tomorrow. But by the time he reached the threshold to immortal ascension, it would be a little difficult for him. He was hesitant. I've already learned the 6th step of the 9 steps of heavenly travel, so there's no problem in protecting myself against someone of a similar level. Even someone in the Essence Soul realm shouldn't be able to catch me. The power of 9 bulls is still stuck at the power of 5 bulls. If I don't advance, it will be very difficult for me to continue improving. I feel like I can now fight with someone in the Essence Soul realm. I don't know if this is just an illusion. The Kunlun Heart Sutra has an additional effect on spells. Recently, I've learned quite a lot of spells from signing in. There are all kinds of spells with great destructive power. I've never fought against someone of the same level before, so I'm not sure how powerful they are. The gravitational spell, Imperial Sword Technique, 7 Stars Sword Technique, 9th Heaven's Flowing Fire, Heavenly Thunder Descent. All these techniques have already been cultivated to the extreme. The stronger my cultivation is, the greater their attack power. The Crepe Myrtle Sword, Immortal Binding Rope, Pseudo, Demon Suppression Hammer, and other Dharma treasures can all be used without any problems. In addition, with some runes, I can theoretically fight against Essence Soul cultivators. However, my cultivation level is still only in the Golden Core realm. Jianlan took out the creation pill. After some hesitation, he grabbed the pill. I'll eat it. It took him 30 years to advance to perfect the Golden Core realm. It might take 100 years for his essence soul to reach the void refinement realm. This 100 years was enough for him to find the opportunity to break through. How strong he was now was the real strength he possessed. Moreover, there were many places on Kunlun Mountain that he had never been to. His master also wanted him to go out for a stroll. As a personal disciple, there were very few places he could not go. Then, Jianlan prepared himself to swallow the pill and directly advanced to the Essence Soul realm. He was just about to swallow the pill when he felt a message coming his way. It must have been a message from his master. Is he asking me to go to the Third Summit's mystic realm after seeing that I've perfected the Foundation Establishment realm? Jianlan was curious. His master rarely disturbed him. If he looked for him, it meant that there was an issue. Looking for him now probably meant that his master wanted him to look for a chance to advance in the mystic realm. Master, you're really disturbing my mind. Jianlan looked at the creation pill before putting it away. He would see what his master was up to before eating it.